Hello, this is Dr. Tirrell, and I just briefly wanted to give you some information about how the recent closures due to extreme weather have affected the course. And we'll discuss this more in person when we return to class, which will be Tuesday, October the 9th, so next week. Just really briefly, I want to walk you through some of the main changes. And as I said, we'll discuss this. And if you have any questions at any point, you can, of course, contact me. Email is probably the best way to get a hold of me now. Let me just share my screen here. We can take a look at this. Okay. Sorry, let me pull it up as well. So this is the syllabus. One main thing to point out is that, as you probably know, the meeting time has been extended for our course. Originally it's 9:30 to 10:45. That's been extended by 5 minutes to 10:50. You can see here on the syllabus, all new things I've put in red so you can see the changes here to the policies. And you'll notice I changed the time here. You can read this block on your own. It points out that essentially we lost, I believe, 600 minutes. It's 75 per meeting. That's twice a week. So that's 150 per week, 4 weeks. And there is actual policy, which is tied to state law about contact minutes. So what that means is, we're obliged to make up that time. That's important because some of the changes we'll look at here, it's not just that we can condense the semester into the remaining time. You actually have to make up those minutes. So we'll talk about how we're doing that in this class. As it says here, we're doing a few things. Obviously, the days are extended. As you know, a couple of days when class wouldn't be normally held, such as fall break and reading day, those have been canceled and they're now used as classroom meetings. And then we're adding additional outside of stuff, reading, and then, as we'll discuss, additional video content. And when we get to the calendar, we'll sort of talk about how that's going to work. So you want to look through that. That's basically what it tells you. The meeting time obviously has been extended. We're still meeting at the same time and place, but it's 5 minutes longer. That still leaves you with 10 minutes before your next class, which is fine because it's 10 minutes on Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes anyway. Late work. So here's a change. Late work now, where we used to, or where I used to not accept late work. Now, any reasonable late work will be accepted. So, just let me know, just keep me in the loop. But, because the semester is now so compressed, and not just this course, but every course, everyone's going to be under just a ridiculous time crunch. So if you need to talk to me about a late assignment, that's perfectly fine. Any accommodations I can make, I will. It does say reasonable in there, that when the semester ends, nothing can change. So if you need to, a little extra time because you're getting slammed with other things, that's fine. Just let me know in advance and keep me in the loop. But that is a change there, that late work now is a little more, well, it's a lot more flexible. And then the other main change here, we're still being graded. We still have the same things. We're still actually doing the same assignments. But as it says here, the final total, which hasn't changed, is going to be mediated by something called the student's self-assessment. And that's talked about here in this paragraph. So as it says, you're still going to receive numerical scores, in part because we can't really radically change how we're doing grades, and because you're still going to be getting feedback. It's sort of built into Blackboard. You sort of have to get a numerical score. So you're still getting numerical scores on assignments, but everybody's going to prepare at the end a brief self-assessment, and we'll look at what that is specifically. And that assessment that you do of your own progress in the course, I'm going to take that into account when assigning final grade. So as it says here, you're going to be essentially telling me, here's the grade you believe you have earned and why, based upon class achievement. And we'll talk about this, but it's not based on hardship, because there's enough of that. It's a question of what have you accomplished that demonstrates, well, this is what I've earned. So I will factor that in when assigning final grades, and we'll look at the specifics of that here in just a minute. And then, as it says, this isn't just pulled from the ether. This is drawing upon what's sometimes called ungraded assessment, and there are some informational links here. But the idea is I'm trusting you with a much greater weight in terms of assessing your own progress, right? It's not just me assigning points and keeping close tabs on what you're doing. It's incorporating your understanding of here's what I've earned and here's why. So that's the gist of that. Those are the main changes in terms of course policies. Late work now is flexible, and then we will be graded and you will be getting feedback on everything, but I'll also be incorporating your self-assessment. So let's go ahead and take a look at the self-assessment in particular here. It is listed now under assignments. Basically, it's, as I said, it articulates here's what you think you should earn and why, based on class achievement rather than on the hardships you've experienced. I mean, you can mention those, but there's since everyone's experiencing a lot of it, that's not the meaningful differentiator. The differentiator is achievement. It's a short written document. I don't want this to be onerous, but we do want to have something textual that I can have. And also we're going to have an individual discussion. This will give us something to talk about when you have material. It compels you to articulate a case. So you write a short document near the end of the semester, about 2 pages. And then we're going to have an individual discussion during our final exam period. You might remember previously our final exam period was just sort of an open period to address final questions. Now we're going to be using it for individual conferences where you and I will chat about what you feel you've earned and why. And this isn't a adversarial setup. This is not a legal setup. We're just going to discuss, what you think you've earned and how you can articulate that. So one way to think of this, because we are still getting points, and it's not like it's changed the total points in the course, is that think of it as an overarching cumulative extra credit opportunity, right? It's capable of adding a full letter grade, which is 20 points for us. So there is kind of a limit to how high we can go here in terms of taking this into account. But why this is this is a huge whack of the course. The thinking there is to use the remaining time. We've got like 9 weeks to use that remaining time to focus on learning rather than on accumulating points. Realistically, because everything's going to be compressed in all of your courses, it's just going to be difficult to allocate your time and energy everywhere that you could have in a full semester, right? I mean, time is a zero-sum resource. So, occasionally some points here and there are going to probably slip. The idea here is to alleviate this crunch, some of the anxiety you may have about all of this stuff being compressed into such a short time, and just to give this huge sort of broad extra credit where we can talk about, here's what I actually did, that'll fill in those gaps, right? I mean, if you have to overlook an assignment here or there, this will more than fill in any of those gaps. Okay, so the impulse here is to focus on, we've got a short amount of time. Let's focus on learning as much as we can and less on getting fastidious about points. Right? This big blanket thing at the end will help us do that. Right? Now you can let a couple of things slide if you need to because of the demands of your other courses and your life. And we can certainly make it up on the back end. Okay, so those are the main changes there. This new just think of it as a giant extra credit opportunity at the end that can bump you up a full letter. And late work now is much more flexible. Looking at the calendar itself, you can see boy, that's a block. You can see that's now built into the schedule. We are doing the same stuff the way things are being made up. And again, we legally have to have the appropriate number of contact minutes. Most of what we're doing is things like doubling up on readings, where before you would have been doing 1 chapter here, now you're doing 2. And since we have, we've only got 5 extra minutes per class, which is not enough to do this thing as normally we would. So what's going to happen is a lot of the discussion that we don't get to in class, I'm going to push into video content, as it said on the syllabus there. I'm essentially just going to, whatever we don't get covered in class, I'm just going to record information about that. So, if one or the other chapters here gets short shrift because of the time crunch, I'll just record that material and then I'll provide it as a video that you can watch, and that will more than make up the content, the contact minutes that we have to have, combined with everything else we're doing, the longer periods, canceling fall break and reading the reading day. The video content will make up all those extra minutes combined with everything else we're doing. So that's how things look. Otherwise, it's not like the schedule actually radically changed that much. We're doing the same things. So do keep in mind, in fact, our first day back, that hasn't changed any. I didn't want to pile extra stuff on you. So it's the same thing. We're doing a reading response, and that's still live, obviously. I do want you to read King's letter from a Birmingham jail. This links actually to the audio of him reading it, Dr. King reading his letter, which is awesome. I encourage that, but there is also a textual transcription if you prefer to do it that way. But that's the same. Nothing's changed there. So do keep in mind we've got that. Those things do. That day will be pretty much the same. We're going to chat a bit about the popular argument analysis, which we've been doing, because there's no way anybody remembers what we were doing. I don't remember what we were doing. So we'll need to bring each other up to speed on that. And then that is due on Thursday. We've now had an extra month to complete it. So you do want to make sure you're keeping up with that. It is linked here. Remember, it sort of walks us through this analysis that you're doing, and it does give us those helpful categories. You're just going through those categories, basically. If you look a little bit ahead, we've got the same stuff. Then we move on from the popular argument analysis to the academic argument analysis. You'll be submitting a topic choice. I'll give you feedback, and it'll be due there. Then we'll move on to the actual arguments we're composing. The first researched argument, we'll be doing an annotated bibliography as preparation for that. We'll do a draft of it. We'll get feedback from me. Then it'll be due. And then we'll be doing the second research argument. You might look at that and say, wow, that took that many weeks, and this is a really quick turnaround. The reason why is, and this has always been the case, this isn't a new change. That second research argument actually builds on the first one. So it looks like, oh gosh, how do we do that whole thing in just a couple of weeks there? It's actually building on the first one. That's the reason why. So that's the gist of it. As I mentioned, we do have to make up those contact minutes. So the way we're going to be doing that are through a lot of those little changes, right? A longer class period, a couple of canceled classes, more reading outside of class, although it's actually the same stuff. It's just been pushed out. And then I'll be making up the other minutes with supplementing what doesn't get covered during our class discussion with video discussions. Anything we don't get to address as fully as we should, I'll make up short video discussions of that, and you can watch them on your own time. Okay, let me cut back to me here. There I am. So that's the gist of it. As I said, we'll discuss this a little bit more when we meet in class on Tuesday, October 9th. If between now and then you have any questions, you can always contact me. But otherwise, the calendar should be ready to go, and there's nothing additional due on that Tuesday. It's not like a whole bunch of new stuff has gotten piled on. That's the same thing. If we would have met September the 11th, boy, that was a long time ago. It would have been the same stuff due. We've just had an extra month to do it. Use that time to complete that, but then also think about the popular argument analysis that was due originally September 13th. So now you've had an additional month to do it, although I know nobody did. That's going to be due on the 11th of October. So those are the things that are immediately due. Again, there's not any new stuff piled on. But do take a look through the calendar. If you have any questions, let me know. And then, of course, those two main changes to the syllabus. Late work is now flexible. And then we have that big self-assessment at the end, which is essentially just sort of a global extra credit opportunity that can bump you up a grade based on your understanding of how you succeeded in the course. Okay, if you have any questions, contact me. Otherwise, I will see you folks in class on Tuesday the 9th. I look forward to it. Look forward to getting back into it. I'll see you then. Bye.